Hello everybody, welcome to another eSchoolDocs training video. My name is Cody and I'm one of the developers here at eSchoolDocs. In this video we are going to cover some of the new features added for special education teachers in version 7 of eSchoolDocs, which was added around summer of 2025, in case you're watching this in the future. And this is going to be a pretty long one, but I've just had an energy drink, so let's get right into it. So here we've got eSchoolDocs open, and I am signed in currently as a special education teacher. Most of the functionality that we've added can be accessed through this calendar link here. So this is going to access your calendar when I click on it. And over here on the left, we can see all the students that are in our caseload for in our special education caseload. And we've made a previous video on how to add students to your caseload, and we've also made a previous video on adding special education services to an IEP. So if you're not familiar with a lot of this, feel free to watch some of that content. So what we are going to do now is create and schedule a series of class sessions. So the idea here is that every day you all have a series of classes that you have with the students that you're responsible for. So that might be math, behavior, English language arts, whatever it might be. The goal, of course, is to try to meet all the required minutes that each of your students have on their IEPs. So what we're going to do now, we're going to pretend that I'm a special education teacher that has a math class from 8 to 9:15 every day. And in that class is Bobby, Nora, and Owen. So let's just click in here. There's a couple different ways to do this. Probably the simplest way is to just click into this 8 to 8:15 block. So you click that. One of the options is schedule class session. That's what you want to do here. And you can do two things here. You can either do a one-off session. So if you just wanted to record this one for Monday and it not repeat, kind of like how it might repeat on Outlook or another calendar software, then you can do that. You can just do one off, set your subject, and then add whatever students you want to it. In our case, for this example, we're going to do recurring, which is probably what you guys will want to do most of the time. And we'll set math as our subject, our recurrent schedule. We'll say that we want this to start on the 4th, which is the day that we selected. And by default, it's just going to, the starting date and the until date is going to be the same. So you want to make sure that you change the until date until sometime in the future. And you guys are more than welcome to do this for the entire school year all at once. For demonstration's sake, we'll just set this until the 15th. So from this Monday, August 4th, 2025, until next Friday, August 15th, 2025, we want to every day from 8, and we'll say to 9:15. So you want to make sure that you change your end time appropriately. We want to have a math class session, and we want Bobby, Nora, and Owen in that class session. We'll go ahead and submit that. And now we can see on our calendar, we've got these from 8 to 9:15, excuse me. Every day, at least for this week, we've got a math session. Next week, we'll also have those math sessions. But the week after that, we aren't going to have any math sessions because we set our recurrent schedule to be up until the 15th. So let's go back to this first week here. So this is how you can go about doing a lot of your lesson planning. Let's do another one. We'll set it recurring for English language arts from the 4th until the 15th. Daily, because we want to do this every day. If you wanted to have sessions that were a bit different, so if you wanted it to be weekly, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, then you could do that as well. And this would be similar to the daily one, except for it wouldn't do Tuesdays or Thursdays. This would just be every week, or from these two week ranges, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's going to create these sessions for you. In our case, again, we're just going to go back to daily. And let's say that this one is from 9:20 up until, 10:35. And then, again, this is completely arbitrary. Your all's schedules may and will surely look completely different. And then we'll add those students in. And now we've got English language arts on here. All right, let's take a second to talk about some new information that we've now got on our screen since we've added some class sessions into eSchoolDocs. So we've added essentially 10 75-minute class sessions for math. So that's 5 for this week, 5 for the next week. And we've done the same thing for English language arts. So 5 for this week, 5 for the next week. Those add up to 750 minutes of math time across that 2-week period. And we can see over here on the left sidebar in our monthly minute trackers that Bobby now has 750 minutes out of his 3,000 required math minutes. If we click on this block here, so where it says IEP and then Math DSEE, so this is a direct special education environment. So if we click on that and we scroll down, I've got some other data in here for May, but if we scroll down to August 2025, we'll see that these are the 10 different class sessions that we've scheduled, and we can see some information about those. So class session log, the times, the dates, how many minutes each session was. And then if we were to go over here and click on this eyeball, then we'd see that same class session editor that we would see from the calendar. So let's go ahead and go back to the calendar now. Okay, so we are back at our calendar now, and let's say that it is Monday, August 4th, and I'm either about to have this math session, or I just had it. And let's say that I want to fill in some extra information about like the quality of this session or really just anything I want to about this math class session. So I can click on the math class session, and this is our class session editor. So from here, we've got different blocks that can be expanded to represent different types of information. So we've got a session information block at the top, and this is just high-level information about the session as a whole that you can change. So this one it was in fact a math session, but let's say that, for example, there was a scheduling conflict and this needed to be another subject or whatever. You can change this to any other subject that we have. Keep in mind, though, when you change the subject, it's going to also change some things about each individual log underneath the class session. We'll get to that in a minute. So we can change the date, start and stop time. There's also a lesson plan note field. So let's say that if I wanted to put in some lesson plan information, I could say, let's teach some math. You can put in whatever you want there. Next, we have a scheduling information block. This is going to be useful later on in this tutorial, and we'll come back to that. Also, every student has its own block that we put in this class session. So Bobby has a block, Nora and Owen each have their own blocks. By default, it's going to say no goals selected, and so if you are wanting to stay on top of things, this is a good way for you to know, like, hey, there's still some work to do here. So for Bobby, you can change the start and stop time. So this would only change Bobby's start and stop time. So if I were to say he got there 10 minutes late, then I can change that there. And once I click save, it'll update that time here as well. I could say that Bobby was absent. This would be useful if I want to record that he was absent, so then I can make those minutes up later. So if I were to set one of these kids as absent, and I'll go ahead and demonstrate this here in a moment with Nora, then the minutes for this session would not show up on Nora's math tracker, and I'll demonstrate that here shortly. So we've got sped service, math. This is going to be selected by default in most cases. Goals, so every special education service has one or more goals. You can select which goal that you wanted to target here, and then you can leave a note if you want to, and this is optional. So you'd say, Bobby did great. Okay. So next, let's go to Nora. We'll say that Nora was absent, and we can go ahead and say that we were going to target this goal, but obviously because the student was absent, we didn't get to it. Note, Nora had a tummy ache. Okay. And then for Owen, we'll go here and we'll select that first goal, and we'll say Owen did great. No, Olwen did great. And the notes is not a required field by any means. This is just me demonstrating for you guys. So let's go ahead and save this. And we're going to see now up here that Bobby Barker's section is going to say 8:10 to 9:15. Nora is going to say absent, and Owen's is just still going to look normal, 8 to 9:15. Let's go ahead and close this, and we'll talk about what changed over here. So Bobby showed up 10 minutes late, so he only got 65 minutes out of 75. And if I click on this, we'll see that this one was 8:10 to 9:15, so there was only 65 minutes, and that's why we lost. This was initially 750 minutes, and now it's 740 because we changed that start time for Bobby. And if we go back and look at Nora's monthly tracker, we scroll down to August, and we'll see that this first one, this is the one that we marked her as absent, we'll see that it shows absent right here. There's a big line through that to show you that it does not, these minutes here do not apply to the overall monthly tracker. And again, we'll see up here 675 out of 3,000 because 75 minutes from the previous total were subtracted because Nora was absent. So we're back at the calendar now, and one other thing that you can do with class sessions is you can add attachments, and this can be any arbitrary file. So you can just click on one of these sessions. We'll choose the one that we've been working on already. And this last section is called attachments, and if you expand it, you can see you can attach one or more documentation items to a class session. You can either click here to upload one or right here. So we will select just image for our church logo in this case. I'll click submit. And now we can see I've got one attachment here. It's been updated to include that. And if we want to download that attachment, we can click this button. And then if we decide we want to delete it, we can click the little trash can. This is mostly going to be useful for if you're doing lesson planning in advance and you want to attach some kind of a worksheet or something like that to a class session. Then whenever you do eventually get around to performing that class session, this is just a convenient place for you to store all that information. And if I close this now and go back to the calendar, I can see this little paperclip guy. And this is just a way for you to see at a glance that you do, in fact, have an attachment. And it'll tell you how many attachments you have for this class session. So up to this point, we've talked about how to add class sessions into the system. And this is great for lesson planning and just making sure you've got your math, English language arts, all that sort of stuff, and that at the end of the month you should be able to prove that you've met all the required minutes for each of your students for all their different special education services that the IEP has. But let's say that something changes. Let's say that a student who was in your class or was at your school leaves the school, and you've spent all this time at the beginning of the year setting up your delicate beautiful lesson plan, and now that lesson plan has changed because a student has left, or for some reason you have to change the schedule. Could be any number of things. So what do you do about that? So let's say, for example, let's go to the week of August 11th. So we are 1 week into our schedule. If we just imagine that we'd schedule everything for the whole school year, and then halfway through the school year we've got to change things. Let's just put ourselves in that mindset. So starting from this date, we need to change our math stuff from this point forward. So this is where this scheduling information block comes in that we talked about before. So let's say that for every session moving forward from this date, August 11th, 2025, we want to change this. It's still going to be a math, let's say, but let's go ahead and remove Bobby from this session. So here we've only got Nora and Owen. And now if we go to this scheduling information block, this is where this is super helpful. So it's going to say this session does not line up with the schedule. It says you can update the schedule to include the following changes and update the other related occurrences to match this session. So it detects that we've made some changes that we may want to duplicate for sessions in the future. So we can... It's going to tell us that the change that was made was that a student was removed. Bobby Barker was removed from this session. So if I click on this now, we're going to see two buttons. One to update only future occurrences, and another to update all occurrences. So if we wanted to make this change midway through the school year, but really we wanted to apply to everything that is still scheduled that I haven't intentionally changed, then I can do update all occurrences. But if I only want to do it for stuff in the future, meaning August 11th moving on, then I can click this button. And I'll go ahead and do that just to show you what it looks like. So I'll click update only future occurrences. Are you sure? Yes. So go ahead and do that. And now it's going to say it's in alignment with the schedule because we've changed the schedule to say that moving forward, Bobby is no longer going to be included in future sessions. So if I close this and now I go here, notice all of these, well, none of these have Bobby in them anymore. If I click on this, Bobby is not there. But let's say that let's go to this one again. Let's say that I also want to add a student. We'll add Purple Haze to our class session. And now let's go to scheduling information again. It's going to tell us again, this session doesn't line up with the schedule. What's different? Well, we added a student. Purple Haze was added to this session. And let's also say that rather than from 8 to 9:15, we want to do 7:45 to 9:15. If I save that now, and it's going to reload, that we've also changed the time. So in this case, the start-stop time of this session is different from the schedule, and we've added a student. So let's go ahead and we'll select both of these changes, and we'll say update only future occurrences, so only the stuff in the future will change. Click that button. And now after it updates, it's going to say this session is in alignment with the schedule. Perfect. We'll close that. And now notice all of these math sessions, again, for only this second week, so this is stuff that was in the future based off of our initial schedule, now start at 7:45 and they end at 9:15. But if I go back to this first week of August 4th, notice they start at 8 and go to 9:15. And if I hover over these, they all still have Bobby in them. So this is a way to demonstrate how we've tried to make it easy for you guys to model in the system when things inevitably change in your schedule. So when a student leaves the class, when a student is added to your class, when plans change in terms of time or start and stop times, even if the subject change, you can change the subject for future occurrences. But let's say that in terms of our English language arts, let's say that I just completely messed this up in the first place. I can go in here and click that, and then in scheduling information, everything's in alignment with the schedule, but let's say I just want to get rid of this. I can either get rid of just this individual session, so that would be an option. So let's just delete this class session to prove that. Notice the class session is gone. Now let's go ahead and go to this one. Actually, let's choose this one here. Scheduling information, delete only future occurrences. So go ahead and do that. Now notice I've only got 3 of these English language arts left. And let's just go to this middle one and let's say, no, I do want to go ahead and delete everything. Then we'll click this button that says delete session and all related occurrences. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then now English language arts, we decided we didn't like that anymore. We want to do something completely different. That's how you can manage your schedule to just get rid of stuff. Okay, so let's go to this second week where we changed some of our scheduling stuff around because I want to talk about one topic really quick. In these sessions, we added that new student, Purple Haze. Let's go ahead and we'll go in here and we'll see no goals selected. And when we go to SPED service, we'll see that it is empty and there's no data, and goals is obviously empty too because we haven't selected a service yet. And if we close this out, we can see what the problem is. So Purple Haze does not have any IEP services on, we're going to assume Purple Haze is a girl, on her account. So if we click on her here and we go to IEPs, we'll see there's not an IEP. So we'll just really quickly register one. For that date, we'll go there, and then we'll register a math service. And we'll say there are 1,500 minutes required for her, because why not? Testing is going to be that first goal, and we'll submit that. And now let's go back to our calendar. And we'll see that Purple Haze has a math service, and notice that there's this little question mark, and then we've got this progress bar is blue rather than green. And that's because the system is trying to be really helpful about assuming. So Purple Haze is in math sessions, and we're going to assume that those math sessions, they should be applied to this particular math service, but it hasn't been explicit yet. So if we go in here, let's go to the next week. We'll go in here and we'll add Purple Haze, and we'll just go ahead and make it explicit by going in and selecting that new math service that we added. And we go in here, we'll select goals, save, we'll close that, and then now notice that there's some green and some blue. So what you can do here is just, it's not absolutely essential, it's really up to you if you want to go through and update those SPED services or those class sessions to have that service and goal. It's totally up to you. I'm going to go ahead and do it just for demonstration's sake. And then now we can see we've got a green, progress bar, everything is accounted for, and so on. But the system's trying to be helpful by guessing, if it can't know for sure, if it hasn't been made explicit that these math class sessions are for precisely this math service, the system's going to let you know that by turning it blue, and it's going to say assumed minutes. And really the way to fix that, if you really want to, is to just go into those sessions and select explicitly that this particular math service. The way really to get around that is to make sure that before you schedule any class sessions that you just got all your IEP services in the system for all your students that you are or that are in your caseload. Okay, so this has been a not so brief overview of some of the new functionality that we have added for special education teachers in eSchoolDocs as of version 7. We covered how to create class sessions and how to schedule recurring class sessions. We talked about the monthly tracker on the calendar, how you can verify and make sure that you've met or that you're going to meet all the minutes that are required for each of your students across all their special education services. We talked about what happens when a schedule changes. So when a student leaves or a student is added or your time schedule has to change, how you can either update future events or update all events if necessary. We talked about how to delete scheduled class sessions if you need to. I think that's been pretty much it. If anything is unclear, if you all have any recommendations for future videos that might be helpful, please shoot us a comment and we will get to that as soon as possible. All right, God bless you guys and hope you all have a great rest of your day.